While I was making a video, I then realized something that I didn't before. It seems like something pretty important. And given the implications, I should probably be in jail by now. So, given the tools that YouTube's provided me with, I was incapable of marking my videos for kids or not for kids. But Kappa is apparently got involved with YouTube. Even though there is an app specifically designed for kids, that is a variation of YouTube and made by the same company. And until that was brought up, and as far as I'm aware, children weren't even supposed to be using it in the first place. But based off of YouTube's being free, they sold the information of the users to the highest bidder. And guess what? Somehow it was confirmed that a child was one of them. Why were there so many children's videos on YouTube before Kappa? And somehow that not get involved with them before, and what about all the warnings of the future specifically for younger aged people? Stuff like that apparently didn't get involved. No, it wasn't all of that. I said that's not supposed to be for kids. Not got the trigger for Kappa. No, it's the information for those kids being sold to the highest bidder. Despite that, it was pretty obvious that was what YouTube was doing with the information, and there was so much kid-specific stuff there. So, there's a legal thing going on with Kappa, where I'm supposed to make my videos whether or not they're for kids or not for kids. Whether they're intended for children, or they're not intended for children. And today, mere seconds before recording this video, starting the recording, realized that YouTube Studio was something that they had at the end as something to use for that. The thing is, according to the reviews, that thing is unusable now. And I don't recall that being there before. And do I even have enough space? And how haven't I gotten any fines or arrests? Jail time? Maybe that's part of the reason why I'm on 52 watch lists. Well, maybe it's because I'm broadcasting this with an internet browser and an internet provider that is so old that it's unrecognizable to many things, or at least not used because it's so slow and they bother just leaving it alone. And there are 10 VPNs that each use a different encryption, including one that was created specifically by me and is being broadcasted to a server that then further encrypts it and then sends it to YouTube. Maybe that has something to do with it. And that's why it wasn't found. And then given any fines or arrested. Or Kappa just doesn't care, or whoever is dealing with the moderation of that. Seriously, the moderation of YouTube is so poor. There's literally a video depicting of a Resident Evil 3 nude mod that is not age restricted. And naked yoga ain't age restricted either, last I checked. Or at least some of it is. It's like, and plenty of stuff that should be restricted isn't, and stuff that shouldn't be restricted is restricted. Even a video containing something that was restricted, and in order to continue, it was such a bad violation that you had to acknowledge how bad it was. And then it included that, and a description of a naked yoga video's thumbnail. And that was just fine with not being age restricted. And even if you argue, hey, some of the stuff may have not been age restricted because it was before age restriction, well, first of all, why would age restriction not be there initially? It could be that there wasn't really a way of accomplishing that back then, and yeah, I can understand that. And that because they were already there, before the age restriction, it wasn't registered as something that was age restricted. Yeah, okay, but what about the moderation? And why wouldn't the YouTube's CEO and YouTube's whoever's making the updates and the changes to YouTube, wouldn't they realize that? And if the videos are being, they should notice that. They should at least have thought about that. And if you say, well, they were like that before there was the involvement with COPPA, and before there was the age restriction, and if there are older buildings that don't have to abide by the wheelchair accessibility thing because of how old they are, then the same could apply to, and something similar could apply to the videos. I say no, that's stupid, because the videos can still have a age restriction thingy put on them. It's not like you have to break something down without damaging anything, and then add something, and then make sure that it works, and that it doesn't cause anything that could cause someone or a company that authorized the whole ordeal to go down to be sued. No, just put an age restriction on there. How's YouTube still up? Do I even have enough space on the phone itself for YouTube Studio? I tried installing Discord. I cleared up enough space, but then it needed more space because of secondary download. But even though the space was the same, and there was no second, and it never stated anything that indicated there would be a second download, and this happened more than 2 times. It was like 3 or 4 times. It was 4 times. Maybe 5, though 5's probably an exaggeration. More like 3, probably. And the apps that went away with that, their space didn't count, because it would appear that the space for said apps was deleted. Not just the apps, but the space itself was deleted. Well, not really deleted, but the space was unusable. And as far as I know, even after the deletion of said apps and Discord's installation being stopped, there was no change to what I could use for the photos and videos, which would imply that the space itself was gone. To state that something happened that made that space unusable. And I don't want to be left in a situation where more space on my phone becomes unusable. I really don't.